Welcome, my lovers, to I don't know what that was. A lot is going on. We have two whole pay-per-views this weekend, so I'm like prepping for that work. Stay tuned for those reviews because go home shows are coming really, really soon. But I mean, I guess this technically is a go home show before the next 2 weeks of spring break-in. But we are here back with another episode of the Dynamic Dominance Trio, your weekly NXT review squad. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, also known as El Jefe around the BC WrestlePod, space interwebs, whatever the kids are using. I am the boss. I'm also the face that somewhat runs the place. But joining me this week, as always, is my lovely two co-hosts. First and foremost, for the NXT, TNA, and Ring of Honor, you can find him all over those places. Mr. A to Z himself, Andrew. We are coming off of a week where we were just very sad.
Less sad this week.
Yes, less sad so far this week. Here's crossing my fingers, hoping that trend continues for the rest of this week because we got a lot to going on. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, NXT, TNA, and both of these men survived their first WrestleMania Hell Week, which was very, really nice. Papa Oso himself, Will, back with us in the fold. Thank goodness. We missed you from last week.
Well, I'm back.
The whole gang is back together again. Like a SpongeBob, you like the gang's all here. I'm out of my gourd tonight, you guys. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get buck wild because we have a lot to talk about because we got another jam-packed NXT. They crammed everything they could. That kind of tells us where we're going the next 2 weeks for spring break-in. But on top of that, I also saw signs. I don't know if you two noticed this, but I saw signs that was like with the draft incoming, we were throwing in finishing stories and whatnot before people got a chance to get drafted because that starts next Friday. And I have for sure 2 people locked in to be called up and one potential one that I'm afraid of. And I don't think she should be called up quite yet, but who knows at this point. So without further ado, let's just jump into NXT this week. NXT opens up with a banger between Noam Dar and Dijak, surprisingly. I actually really enjoyed this match, more so because Noam Dar picked up the victory. So that's great. But it was nice to see Noam Dar kind of get back in the ring and be like, oh yeah, he's a silly character, but then remind us that he's actually a really good wrestler. I thought this was a fun match. I was like, this is a banger. So I enjoyed this match. This was fun.
Yeah, I was worried this was going to be kind of a sacrifice of Noam Dar. But it was way more competitive and way more exciting than I expected, especially the size difference between the two of them, the fact that they let Noam Dar keep up with Dijak, and like you said, come out with a victory. There might have been little shenanigans in there, but I liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I agree, this was a great look for Noam.
Yes, I enjoyed this match thoroughly. I thought it was funny because, I was commenting to Mikey because I watched it today. I literally watched it today. It was just like, okay, I'm going to watch this now. But yeah, I thought, I still think Dijak needs a new shtick because I'm just like, okay. It's very eye-rolly whenever he does this, that, like when he pulls the sunglasses down slowly, I'm just like, oh God. Can we get something new, please? But I thought it was a really good match. I thought it was, man, that boot to the face Dijak did Noah. I was like, damn, that hurt. That hurt me. I was like, there were so many good moves in this one. I love, one of my favorites was when they were like tossed out the trash. I thought there was a good combination of like humor and then like actual serious like wrestling. And I really enjoyed it. That flying clothesline was really good. I mean, I had no idea that Noah was Scottish or Israeli. I just found that random piece of information out. And I was like, what? But no, this was really good. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a good match to open the night with, for sure.
I love Justice for Metaphor. We're continuing to build them up, especially Noam Dar. Now that we're about about a month or so after him losing the Heritage Cup, so now we're
Yeah.
finally getting him back to be in the ring. We're going to talk about another another member of Metaphor later in the evening, and I'll share my conspiracy theory on that. But we leave this singles match and we go into probably my favorite pre-tape segment of the whole entire night, in the sense that I liked how it was produced and how we had backdrops and all that kind of good stuff. We had No Longer Will She Be Called Tater, like Tatum taught, because now she has entered her hot topic goth girl teenage phase now. And she cuts this promo talking about how it was never a friendship with Lyra that was what attracted Tatum to her. It was that championship, and since Lyra lost it, so she no longer likes it. Roxanne is the cool girl now because she has the title, but Tatum doesn't want that friendship with Roxanne. She wants that title, and she's going to get it one way or another. I'm like, this was creepy, but I enjoyed it. I thought this was super fantastic. I don't care what anyone says. I thought this was a well produced promo, and I'm like, see what happens when you give promos a budget? They work so much better.
Yeah, I think this is a really smart move with Tatum, taking her in the right direction, especially if we're going to see Lyra get called up. You know, it's a way to really show her now as another top contender and another person to be worried about.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested to see where they take her. I guess we needed a crazy female. And we already got a crazy man, so I guess a crazy woman, or that sort of thing. Because I think I was like, it's like the, excuse me, it's like the Joe Gacy of the women's division.
She's Joe Gacy.
I mean, it's like cray Tatum, which I'm loving. I love it. I mean, she was like sort of stalkery before, but now she's like serial killer, and I'm loving it. I'm like, yay, this is going to be great. So I cannot wait to see where this goes.
Neither can I. And we won't have to wait long to see what's next for Tatum, because we get this announcement towards the end of the evening when we talk about the bumpers for Spring Break in Night 1 later in the show. But we move on from Hot Topic Tatum Paxley, and we go into last week. I said this was my most anticipated match on paper from what we got for the bumpers last week. So we enter in, well, first, they do the thing that Andrew loves in NXT. We get a Lola Vice entrance. Then we get the part 1 of the saga that is Ariana Grace and Gigi Dolan, I guess. Which, by the way, before we talk about the match, I want to say part 1 was fantastic. Gigi looks great. I don't care what nobody says. She looked fantastic. Her hair was great. I want this to be like the equivalent of what ROH and AEW have with Johnny TV and Taya. I need this to be a web series. I need this to be a web show, because this was a lot of fun, even if they were just sitting in the park talking about what's going to happen next.
I think the thing that helped this the most was the more that Gigi plays into it, I think the better it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also loved her hair. My God, Gigi's hair was so pretty. I was like that beautiful orange. Oh, it was gorgeous.
I
a little
love
heavy
it.
on the eye makeup, but love the hair.
I love it. This was fun, and this is what I love to see. Again, I am not a theater person, so the technical terms is not going to be my strong suit. But I love that the character, from a writing perspective, I love how the character personality archetypes kind of balance each other out. You have the unwilling participant, which is Gigi Dolan, and her aesthetic, and then you have the gung-ho, like, bright-eyed person in Ariana Grace and her character trope. There's such a dichotomy between the two, but I really, really enjoy it. And I'm excited. I can't wait to talk about the second part because the second part had me dying of laughter because it was so funny, but it was so great. And then as soon as we get to the end of this segment, then all of a sudden Sol Ruka's entrance video just pops up on the screen out of nowhere. And then we get like this B grade like Beach Boys theme music to signify her entrance. And then we finally get the match started between Lola Vice and Sol Ruka. Again, on paper, this was my most anticipated match that we were going to get. I thought it was okay. I mean, I wish it wasn't like 5 minutes, but it did set up for what I'm looking forward to next week, though.
I actually really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a really good match. I think it was she's so good in the ring that it was the first time that I felt like I was watching Lola trying to keep up, and catch where her opponent was. So it was just a reminder of kind of like, oh yeah, Lola's still new at this kind of stuff. I don't love the interference, mostly because Sol lost, but it makes sense for the ongoing stories. And the way that Sol sold that fall and that kick at the end were brutal. I mean, that was great, which I thought the interference meant that the loss didn't make Sol look weak, and the way that the kick was delivered and sold by her made Lola look strong. And then I liked the call out at the end and like where it went. I was like, as soon as they were talking about it, I was like, I know where they're going with this.
Which we'll get into in a second. But before that,
Yeah.
Will, what did you think of Sol versus Lola?
I really liked this match also. I thought that it was a really good match, and I thought there was some really great moves. I love that ending. That ending was just, oh wow. I think for me, I think the match got stronger about a halfway through, because it started out good, but it really got good about halfway. I thought at the beginning of it, I felt that I could, well, I mean, not that I could see the setups for all the moves. So they weren't as fluid as they were, I think, in the second half. So that kind of pulled me out a little bit. I didn't not enjoy the match. I totally enjoyed it from beginning to end. But at the very beginning, you could kind of see some of the, I'm set, there we go. I'm set, there we go. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't really care. That's okay. At least they're being safe. That's all I care about. And then it just really picked up about midway through. And when Blair came in and grabbed her legs and she fell, and then that, man. And the way she landed, landed, I was like, I mean, to me, it literally, I felt like she got knocked out. I mean, well done, girl. I mean, because she went full limp. And I was just like, wow. Good for you. It was a beautiful moment at the end. Brutal, but beautiful.
Yeah. I agree with both of you in the sense that I think the only thing that really kind of bothered me was the interference. But like Andrew, you stated, it does go with what the story that's being told. I also like that seeing Lola get another win because she's slowly rising up the ranks of like one of my favorite NXT women. And Andrew, you hinted at this earlier, but as soon as the match is over, after the interference from Blair and Lola celebrating in the ring, the boat herself, Natalia. I hate that moniker, but Natalia pops up on the screen and she basically says that she wants to meet Lola in her world. And so in 2 weeks at night 2 of Spring Break-In, it's going to be Natalia versus Lola in an NXT Underground match. And I'm going to be kind of honest, I'm actually kind of excited because especially if this means that Natty's going to be leaning more into her actual submission background, and given the fact that she is technically a member of the Hart family, so submissions and tap outs and things like that. But what has me more excited is for Lola to truly get to use her MMA background in this match and do all kinds of crazy things. I'm excited. I'm actually looking forward to this match in 2 weeks.
And can I say Natalia was looking gorgeous?
When it's simple like that, the simple black dress and everything, I was
I mean,
like,
she was like statuesque. I was just like, girl.
I wish she would do the same thing with her ring gear, but that's neither here nor
Eh,
there.
well, but man, she looked fantastic. I was like, you go, girl.
I feel like this was the logical direction if they're gonna do more with this feud between the two of them. And like you said, Mikey, this plays to their strengths. You know, it plays to what's gonna have the two of them have a solid match. And so I think when I saw this come up and she was challenging her, I was like, oh, I think I know what they're gonna go for. So I'm really hoping this is better than the first time that the two of them faced off. And I think there's some really good ways that they could go with this that should make Lola look strong, because there's no reason you got to make Natalia look strong. She's a legend. She's already had a great career. You know, especially losing in a really great match, is not going to take anything away from her. So I hope they just do this right with the up and coming talent.
I agree. We move on from getting this announcement for night 2 of Spring Breakin', and we go into our squash match. Well, in squash match number 1 of the evening, Rich Holland, who I guess is no longer okay. All right, strap in. So before we talk about this match, let me go. I wish there was a button to do the warning. We're about to go on a tangent, and Mikey's about to get on his soapbox. To quote LA Knight, let me talk to you. Yeah. Okay. So here's my biggest issue with this whole entire thing. Before we even talk about the match, what was it, like 2-3 weeks ago? We had Ridge retire from in-ring competition, and the whole plot thread that we were going is, he's got to do what's best for his family. He's got to do what's best for his mental health. Without directly stating, but alluding to all the things that has happened, from the internet coming after him and giving death threats after Big E got injured, when one of the Pretty Deadly Boys got injured, and just overall people being hateful and toxic online, and kind of mess with Ridge, where he had to shut down his social media twice within the span of like 2-3 years at this point, since all of this has went down. And so now we randomly have him attack Joe Gacy at the pre-show for Stand and Deliver on the commentary. He's popping up in backstage promos and accidentally kind of hurting one of the members of LWO from last week, which then gives us into technically a squash match for this one. Where has the plot gone with this whole entire thing? Because it has been thrown out the window, and I don't know what is happening anymore, gentlemen. I am lost in the plot. The plot got lost in the sauce, as the kids say. Like, what happened?
Yeah, my biggest problem with this, obviously the plot, like how it's all going to play out. Like, what's the story here? What's the point? Like, if there is something, they're being too secretive about it. Like, we need more to be able to be interested in it, but also, if he's not going to be more violent in his matches, it doesn't sell the storyline. I feel like the actual person, like Ridge Holland, the person, is being extra cautious because of his history, and it comes across in the matches. Like, the whole thing of at the end of it, he was like, had that, like, oh, what have I done? Like, oh, I let the monster out or whatever. But I was like, it was a regular match, dude. Like, there was nothing that I was like, oh, my, like, made you feel like, oh, he went too far. And if we're going to sell that thing, we need to see shades of, like, the darkness or the brutality or something like that. Because then otherwise, you're a dude who's in a profession that's physical, who's afraid of being physical.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah.
And, if we want to make Ridge into this monster heel where it's like literally the Hulk trying to suppress the rage, but then something happens, there are two ways you could go about getting the proper heat with what I think they're trying to do with Ridge, but it's not clicking. Ridge just needs to completely destroy somebody, or if you want to, in my opinion, if you want to get that heat on Ridge, and this is the direction you want to head, I think he needs to destroy someone the NXT universe loves belovedly. Because, we've seen it in a lot of iterations across a bunch of different promotions, and even in WWE in the past couple of years. You want major heel heat, you have them destroy like the crowd favorite. Now, granted, I want a little more, but we just witnessed this on Monday Night Raw this past Monday, where Chad Gable finally snapped and he attacked belovable Sami Zayn, in his hometown after their Intercontinental Championship match. And Chad is now turning heel. Rich needs to do something that, so I don't know, like attack Trick Williams for some reason, because the crowd loves Trick, and you can have Ridge and Trick do something. Ridge like goes too far within the match with Trick, and then that's how you get that heat on him. Or if you want to do it on an up and comer, like Javon Evans is right there. I'm just saying.
Well, or have him go on a series of losing matches because he gets DQ'd because he doesn't stop beating up his opponent after he beats them.
Exactly.
Have him go too far in a way that's like not unsafe. Have him continue to do something after the referee's like, no, your opponent's out. Knock your opponent out and have him get counted outside the ring, and then not be happy with that. So you go out and you bring him back in and you just keep beating on him. Like, there's ways to sell both the violence that we're supposed to be showing he's trying to hide, so he can actually have remorse about something or shame about it or whatever it's supposed to be, but also can get some of that heat and build on what's already there with some people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And I mean, I hope that's what it is. I hope it's... To me, this feels like a really slow build up to a very underperforming climax. Because if they're going to go full on, he's like a villain, bad guy, heel, whatever, then first of all, I think you kind of put the cart before the horse. Because right now I'm like, oh yeah, he's a total bad dude. I mean, if you're building up to it, you're not building up to it very well. I mean, you've kind of already let the cat out of the bag. It's because it makes sense like, oh, I'm retiring because I can't control myself, basically. And then he shows up out of control, and it's like, oh no, who knew that was going to happen? I did. It's like, come on. I don't know what they're doing with Ridge. I mean, I like the guy, and I don't know. Because the crazy bad guy is already being done. We don't need that. It's like, if you're going to be a monster, be a monster. That's my thing. If you're not, then don't. And there is no in between right now, because you're not setting it up that there could be a control factor. It's like, no, I'm really a good guy. It's just, I have anger issues. It's not that. It's literally like, dude, you want to tear people apart. And it's like, and I agree. I think he's going to have to just like annihilate the most lovable character in the entire building. I mean, truly. I mean, if you're going to be a monster, dude. Because right now it's like, I don't believe that the character is going through any type of remorse for what, because he knocked down, was it Joaquin that he knocked down when he was going through the hall or whatever, and it was just like he just did it. It's like,
you could tell obviously how boring this match was, because we're talking about our problems with Ridge's character and the development of said character, because this match was not it.
This match was stupid. And I felt bad for Joaquin, actually, in this whole damn match. Me too. I was like, are you kidding me with this right now? I mean, literally, Ridge, like, annihilated him. I mean, he didn't have much of a chance. And I was like, well, that's not, I mean, This was supposed to be a match to show Ridge is like a monster, quote unquote. I don't think this was this was it. I'm just like,
well, to add to the weirdness of the whole situation too, we have Sean Spears watching on from the entrance ramp. I was like, I was like, you started this and then we left it and now we're bringing it back. Like, I need NXT to make up its mind if they want Sean and Ridge to be a thing or not.
I'm literally like, just get a room.
Well, and there was hardly any interaction. Like,
no, none.
It still felt so disjointed. Like, there's
so dumb.
It's like almost they're like the two of these guys and Joe Gacy are half in on the story that they're telling. It's so weird.
And you know, it's so funny because I'm just like, why is Joe Gacy even a part of the equation right now? I don't even understand why they put him in it.
I don't think they know what they're trying to do with him either, because they put him in this storyline and then he gets taken out and then he comes back in. Like, I don't get it either. It's really weird. I mean,
don't know.
Ridge picks up the win. We don't care. Sean Spears is watching on like a weirdo. I need them to pull something together, pull the trigger on whatever you want to do. Shout out to Sean Spears, though, because it was reported that he's starting to produce some of these matches, which I'm like, good on you, because the man, I think, has an eye for wrestling as well. But we got to do something with the plot threads that is this story, because it is not clicking for me.
Unless this was a match he produced, then not good on him.
No. Yeah, this was one of his. No.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If this was a match he produced, and I'm like, Ben, maybe go back to the drawing board. We're going to move on because, yeah. We'll talk about another squash match that I think actually worked later in the evening, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So we cut backstage. We're in the medical, room. Josh Briggs is cleared to be an in-ring competition just to take it easy because he's healing from cracked ribs. Look, I am not a person who has ever cracked a rib before, but I feel that you should be resting longer than a week to heal from cracked ribs. And so then we have Ivar without Viking Raider makeup walk in. I just want to say, though, his beard is epic. I don't care what nobody says. That beard is majestic. But Ivar basically is trying to be the good guy, ? And telling Josh, glad he's okay. He should take, rest. And then when Ivar takes the title from Obafemi, Josh will get first shot at it. Josh is having none of it. He pushes back. He's kind of being a turd to Ivar for no reason. And basically, this sets up a match that this is like unofficially a #1 contenders match later in the evening to see who will face Obafemi for the North American Championship. I'm like, let's be all the way 100. Ivar has been here for the last week and a half, and this is what we've been building to. So there is no way that Josh was going to swoop in and take that chance away from Ivar.
No, not at all.
Boo! Wendy Testenberger, boo!
This was the weirdest, what? It was weird. Like, I don't feel like we needed this setup to have this match. We didn't need to have the match, but if you want to have Ivar in there to get some more eyes on him before he wrestles Oba. But it was just, it felt so unnatural the way that they set this up, and it's similar to several other conflicts that just seem to come out of nowhere that we've gotten in NXT.
And this episode started off so great. And then it got gooey in the middle. And I'm just like, what? Because, it was
seriously, a weird s'more by the end of it. It was a weird s'more.
The first match was on point, I felt, between Noam and
Dijak.
And then Soul, theirs was pretty good. Theirs was good too. And then it just suddenly just started to kind of decline.
It devolved into madness.
And I'm just like, because and this is not the last of it. That's what's so weird about it. It's just like, it just gets weird as we move forward.
We're gonna get to weird in a couple of segments because we got 15 minutes of a nothing sandwich. We get to a certain faction on factions warfare.
Oh my God. Yeah. When we get there, I have things to say.
Yes. So we go from this weirdness to something I really enjoyed. We had like a pre-taped social media video of Brindley Reese, Idris and No Fate, and Malik Blade talking about the match those two are gonna have against AOP later in the evening. I'm like, listen, I'm here for these weird like workout skits that they do. I thought this was stupid and cheesy, but it was so good. And I kind of like these. I like these three as a faction more and more I see them together on my screen.
Yes,
It's
this
so weird, but it works.
I saw it on Instagram before watching it, and yeah, they kind of have wolf dog energy, but it's a little more
Mhm.
fun. I hope they keep them together because there's really no reason not to. Yeah, they're just super entertaining, and Brindley has that personality that you're just like, I can't help but enjoy when you're on there because you're so like innocently bubbly. And then when I've seen her in the ring, she's really good. And the two of them are incredible as a tag team, like athletic wise. They're really phenomenal. So I think it would just be smart to keep them all together.
Agreed. I love them. I really do. They're just like I don't know. It was such a I think it was such a weird build how they came together. And then the minute they like kind of got in the room together, I was like, I really hope this becomes a thing. Because when she in the beginning when she would just sort of cartwheel into the room and be like, "You guys are great," then she'd hard cartwheel out, and I was just like, "Who is this weirdo?" And now I'm just like, "Oh my god, I can't even imagine him without her now." It's like I freaking love this trio, and I really do hope that I agree. I hope they keep them together for a while. But yeah, this was a good segment. I did enjoy that.
This was fantastic. We go from this
No.
to, I might be the only person who thinks this, but a nice, weirdly heart-warming little segment with Thea and Audrey. Nope, I'm already getting the no from here. I don't care. I will be the only person left. But before we devolve into a conversation, Thea Hale and Andre Chase are backstage, and I guess we get the kind of closure between with what happened last week when JC dropped that truth, would drop the bomb in front of everyone that Andre Chase made a bet, you know, at Great American Bash for Thea to win. He lost the said bet, and it's Thea's fault that the university was about to close down. And then this was the closure promo of it, with Andre Chase reassuring that Thea is always on, in the forefront, and that he is always going to bet on her, and that he believes in her and whatnot. And so then we got this weird, awkward hug before Thea goes running off as the segment ends. I enjoyed it. It was stupid. It was funny for me. We got closure to this, so hopefully we can move on to the next chapter, that is Chase University and Thea Hale's, chapter feud with Thea, but not with Thea, with JC. So we could put this, the University almost closed business chapter behind us to move on to what's next, which logically is Thea going after JC at some point.
No.
Mm-mm.
I felt that breath from here.
And okay, so I don't know if I'm reading more into this than they're putting in there, but the way he presented this, Andre Chase presented this, I felt kind of like he was putting the blame on Thea, and that
Yes, that's what I got too.
he was using it, or at least using it as an excuse to falling back into like the gambling, like he was manipulating her into being like, oh, I made this mistake, but really it's because you just gave me so much hope. Like it
Yeah,
just
I
felt
know.
it it was like almost gaslighting, kind
It
of
felt a lot
manipulating.
like
Like
gaslighting.
I it was, yeah, and I don't know if they're gonna play into that, if that's what they were going for, any stuff like that. But just the way it was presented, I was like, I don't like that. And on top of that, some of like his big, not monologues, but moments of heavy dialogue, I felt like I was watching a high school acting class scene. Like, and maybe that was part of the manipulation. Part that I felt was the emotion didn't feel genuine. It wasn't quite as bad as like I did it, I did this bad thing because I love you so much I just couldn't handle it. But it
I did
was
it for the rock vibes.
yeah, it was just I didn't enjoy it for many reasons.
Yeah. And I'm normally a Chase promo lover. I usually love everything they do, but this one did. I felt like he was gaslighting her that whole time. I literally was like, wait a minute. This is all your fault, you shit. Not her fault. Wait a minute. Because it's like, I put all my hope into you, and then
Yeah.
then you basically let me down. So I had to throw in the towel. I was just like, wait, what? That's what I got too. I was just like, and then she's like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you are a bastard, man. Literally, I was like, I can't believe they just did that on television. Like, literally, I was like, manipulated her and all, and I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah, I did too. I went there too. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, but like I said, I hope this closes this previous chapter and we can all move on to what's next, which is Thea and JC still need to go one-on-one at some point. So hopefully it'll be out of PLE, but who knows at this point. All right, strap in, kids, because this is what I was alluding to later. This was 15 minutes of a nothing sandwich. And I feel like we just got confirmation that somebody got murdered, like off screen on live television with what everyone was insinuating here. Look, we're not going to discuss the real life things that are going on behind the scenes because we don't have all the information. But if you don't know what we're talking about, all you have to do is type up Drew Gulak and Ronda Rousey and you will get all the information there. But we are not here to dissect that. What we are here to dissect with the nothing sandwich that we got for 15 minutes between these two factions, and this was garbage. I hated this segment so much.
First of all, they should never, ever, ever, ever again in the history of NXT or the future of NXT ever let Dimsey lead a frickin' promo. I was like, shut your frickin' curly-headed mouth. I was like, shut up. I was like, Tony, you can kill him. Here, I'll give you the gun. Please destroy.
William
I was
Regal,
like,
he is not.
Up. I was like, shut up, dude. Who? Oh my God. And then, I'm so tired of No Quarter Catch Crew. I am so tired of this faction. I'm done with them. And now that Dimsey is obviously in charge right now, no, absolutely not. No, I'm done. And then the whole family thing, they came out, and I'm like, why are you coming out here? Why are you talking? What is this? Okay, first of all, you lost, dude. Move on. Then he's all talking about when we lost our tag team titles. I'm like, yeah, you did. Now stop whining about it and get off the stage.
All right, pause right there because that was my first question that I wrote in my notes. I was like, because we really didn't get them complaining when they lost the tag titles months ago, like 2 months ago when they lost them to the Wolf Dogs. And now you're going to take this time to complain. I'm like, that is not the logical step of how we process things in the world. Sorry, Will. That was my first red flag.
No,
I was like,
agree
oh,
with
this
you.
is not going to be good. Anyways,
and then
please continue.
Then Tony, I love Tony D'Angelo. I really do. I think he's a good wrestler. I like him. I don't like this Godfather thing he's got going on though. This thing is starting to play out thin. I mean, it's like and now he's got his like financial goon on his side now, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? And then they were talking, then he's all this, that, and then here comes the three stooges out from the back, and they get out there, and then Dempsey's all like barely speaking English, and probably slobbering on himself, and I'm just like, what is going on? And then at the end I'm like, was this whole thing about the damn Heritage Cup? Did we literally have to sit through all of that just to get to a freaking
No,
cup challenge?
No, spoiler
no.
alert, it
It's a
was
six.
not.
It's a
No, I
6-man
know,
match.
and that's why I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh, I was so mad. If you can't tell, I was so mad. Yeah, this was garbage. This was if they cut this segment out, guys, and don't show it, just skip.
We would have been fun. And this has been your Will Heated Angel moment of the week.
My God, no, I'll shut up now because I
Yeah.
have so.
No, we are passionate. But Andrew, give us your thoughts and feelings about this nothing sandwich.
I feel like every time we see Tony, he becomes more and more caricature of what they're trying to turn them into, and it makes it not only less believable but less intimidating. I mean, he literally said the cheesiest line, you talking to me? Like, don't quote movie mobsters when you're a television mob like character. Like, don't.
It's so corny. Angelica Pickles and Rugrats did a better job. I'm gonna leave it at that. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
it was just, it's so bad, it's so cheesy. Like, there's so many new ways that you could take that organized crime family thing with it. And you're right. Like, the No Quarter Catch crew made the family look like they're Oscar worthy performers. I mean, it was so bad. I mean, at one point he just like was saying a retort and then like stopped in part of the way through. I was like, did you just forget your line? Like, it was horrible. The one thing that came out of this was I thought maybe we would see Tony go after the Heritage Cup to get it away from No Quarter Catch crew. And I was like, okay, maybe we can take a new angle with him. Maybe they can focus on this and give the Heritage Cup something to do as well as Tony. Because I don't think we're seeing him back in title pictures. But yeah, now hearing that we're getting a 6-man tag match against the three of them, like, I don't know. If they're gonna do this, let both factions be violent. Don't let them talk. That is not the strong suit for this whole group of people.
This was a tough. The sucky thing is, this whole thing was 15 minutes, and I was just like, and this is what you chose not to cut to commercial for? Like, this was stupid. I was very upset. This was my low point of the whole evening, and that's saying something because there was some stuff I didn't enjoy. But this was bad. I hated this. Which is weird because we move on from this to my personal favorite match of the evening.
Absolutely.
Ilya Dragunov, the Mad Dragon, has an open challenge to whoever can get into the ring first and have a stare down with him. And so the whole locker room spills out. At first, I saw Lexus King running the charge. I'm like, dear God, keep that man away from him right now. Not yet. But then we see Joe Gacy, and then there was an Eddie Thorpe in the mix. And then we saw a whole bunch of people. We saw everybody, but Javon Evans was smart because he went the other direction, and watching him jump from the commentary desk into the ring, and then jumping in with the assist of the ropes to stare down Ilya Dragunov to signify this is who Ilya is going to be facing was fantastic. And we get into my favorite match of the evening, Ilya Dragunov versus Mr. Bouncy himself, Javon Evans. This was fantastic. In 6 minutes, Ilya reminds everybody why he's the Mad Dragon, but this match also showed that Shawn Michaels and the rest of NXT, higher ups are very high on Javon Evans to give him such a high profile match. And to be completely honest, I think he actually looks a lot stronger in a loss to Ilya than had he had won. And he still looks good in a loss. This was a good ass match. Excuse my cursing.
I agree. This was my match of the night. If you're going to have your young up-and-comer lose, this is how you do it. And outside of the match itself, I appreciate that Ilya got to do this with Evans because I think we're all pretty sure he's going to get drafted. So the fact that I could see the producers wanting to do this and Ilya going, okay, yeah, I want to put this new guy over as we leave. Like, I want to have him give me a struggle as we go into this. Because I was questioning, like, what are we setting? Like, why are we having this match with Ilya? Like, why is a champion defending your title against someone like Trick Williams coming up? Like, why would you be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go fight whoever comes out? But this was such a great way to showcase how dangerous Ilya is, remind you who he is, and show how good Javon Evans is. And honestly, I'm more interested in seeing him do a match like this than him going and having a win streak just off the bat, beating lower card, mid card guys. This was great. This was phenomenal. This is how you handle your performers, your stories, your rising established stars, and your new rising stars. It was phenomenal.
You're muted.
God damn. Anyway, yeah, because I was still steaming earlier. Sorry. No, this is like, I mean, this was a brilliant move because I loved several things about this match because it was my match of the night too. But I loved that we just introduced this kid, and we all know that he's like top talent. We get it, and I agree. I loved how he came in from the backside, and I love how he flipped over Ilya, and he's like, "I'm here, let's do it." And Ilya's like, "Yeah, let's do it," and they did, and it was so good. I mean, there was a few moments there that I was like, he could beat Ilya. I was like, oh my gosh. And then, and I knew he wasn't going to, but I was like, I could see him doing it though. That was what was so great about it. And I agree. I think that if you want to create a strong base for this kid, this was the way to do it. To have him go up against Ilya, lose against Ilya, but not just wham bam, thank you. It was like it went, and he held his own. And to me, that's like, you're right. I think that's way stronger than him even winning the match. Is that he basically told everybody, "Look at me! I went up against the Mad Dragon, and I almost won." It's like, I almost got there. I held my own. And I love this because now I'm like, I can't wait to see what they do with this guy, with Evans. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. The only issue I had with this whole match was that damn jacket. He was wearing that damn jacket again with those freaking hand-cut fur crap all over it.
Not even fur, yeah.
Stop it.
I'm telling you, Will, you need to see Will Ospreay's coat because that is 10 times so much better.
I love Will's coat. It's badass. And I'm like,
I hate the faux fur on the jacket.
It looks like your kid made it. And if he did, yay, but no.
You're about to head up to main roster. We need to start investing.
You wear that at home for your kid. It's like, no.
Yo, see where Charlotte Flair gets her robes from, because Charlotte always has killer robes too. Like,
or Naomi,
maybe when he gets pulled up to the main roster, he'll start getting.
Maybe he'll get like nicer.
Get that main roster money.
He's like, I just can't afford the fur. I'm like, okay, fair enough. All right,
that's very fair.
Coat.
Seriously,
all I'm saying.
Again, this was such a fun match.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite move of the night also came from here. I don't know how to put it into words of how it was, but like, not really a Canadian destroyer, but when Ilya went to go grab Javon, and Javon like flipped it into some sort of like DDT, not necessarily a Canadian destroyer. Like, all I could say is if Javon Evans continues to work and incorporate more of his bounciness into it, I can actually see some really creative stuff happen and kind of pull moves that we're used to seeing like on their head. And again, I need to remind everybody that this kid is only 19 years old. And if this is how fun he is at 19, I can't imagine what he's going to be in 2 years, like when he's 20 or even when he turns 21. Like, once he finds his rhythm and he finds the style of wrestling and the flow that works for him, this kid's going to be a star. I'm calling it right now. I am super excited. This was super fantastic.
Yeah.
And it definitely made up for what came previously before this, for sure. So we leave our favorite match of the evening, and we get a quick backstage segment with Carmen Petrovic, who is interrupted by Lola Vice. And basically, Lola, for the contract signing, Carmen is going to be in Natty's corner, and I'm interested to see who Lola's going to have in her corner. I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, okay, who would be in Lola's corner? I mean, Elektra is on main roster now, and plus they have beef, so it's not going to be Miss Lopez. I'm very interested to see if we get a new debut. It's not going to be Julia. I'm just putting it out there. It's not, because reports are she's not reporting to NXT until the summer when she's done with, working with the new Stardom Western offices, so to speak, in the new promotion. But Julia will be reporting to NXT during summer, which has me super excited. I'm curious to see who's going to be in Lola's corner. That should be interesting. I hope it's someone new, someone cool, but we shall see. Which then leads us into the office of Ava with Sol Ruka, and Sol wants to get back at Blair Davenport. Ava tries to convince Sol that you've been out for 9 months. Are you sure you want to do this? And Sol's like, I don't care. I want her, and let's make this where it's going to benefit both of us. So next week at Spring Break-In, Sol Ruka versus Blair Davenport in a no DQ match.
Yes.
And this is what I'm excited about, because now we can go nuts.
Yeah, this makes up for when we got the match between the two of them right before.
Stand Deliver.
Yeah, where I was like, we should have seen this on the pre-show to that.
Mm-hmm.
Leading into this now, I'm like, okay, cool. No, that makes sense. You built it up right. You gave us a really awesome match. We had the interaction with them before the match when Sol made her return. We had the great match with them, and now we've had interaction with them outside of that match, and we're building to this. I believe they're calling it a beach brawl, and this was the way to build it up, and I'm so excited to see what these two do.
Me too. It's funny, but did anybody else notice Lola's accent coming and going in that interview?
Oh, just a tiny bit.
It was so funny. She was like, I'm talking like that nuts. And she's like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? I was like, wait, what? What just happened? It was so funny. I was just like, keep it together, girl. Come on, keep it together. But no, I'm excited for this too. I think this has been a great build up. And I think that I think it's gonna deliver at this. I really do. I think it's gonna pay off. And I'm very excited about it. I am very excited about it because I love my girls.
I do too. I think this is going to be fantastic. And I hope it lives up to how I actually really enjoyed, like, the last time we got a no DQ. Well, I mean, technically it was a lights out match, but between Blair and Gigi at Halloween Havoc, with the lights out match where Blair threw a chair at Gigi. I'm hoping it gets to that level of nuts where we're getting things thrown at each other. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes.
So we move on from this. We get our next match, Thea Hale versus Tatum Paxley. It didn't go on for too long because there was a lot of shenanigans that got involved in the last thing. But can I just say, I forgot what Vic Joseph called it, and I forgot to write it down. But like this modified, what did he call it? Like tarantula submission hold?
Mm-hmm.
like a reverse surfboard that Tatum was throwing on Thea, I thought was kind of really cool. Yeah, I was like, that was really cool. I was like, I hope that becomes a thing for Tatum to do, lead into the Wednesday Addams of it all. But there was a lot of shenanigans at the end of this because Thea gets her second win. She's on the cusp of winning. At first, I had to pause because someone in pink jumped up with glasses. I was like, who is this? And then we find out it's Jasmine Nix. I was like, oh, dang. I was like, I didn't recognize her in that outfit and those glasses. And then as Thea's getting ready to do like a springboard cutter of some sort, JC runs up and trips her up, which then allows Tatum to roll her up for the win. And then we get my favorite thing where Thea is just fed up and everybody just starts brawling around the ring.
I was like, oh,
Thea flies off the handle and she starts attacking JC and Jasmine and everybody gets involved. I'm like, I love me a good fashion brawl. But as far as the match goes, I wish I would have enjoyed it more. Again, I don't mind the shenanigans because it's the logical conclusion building into where we're going with Thea and JC. But I kind of wish we waited a little bit more before that happened because I was actually starting to get into Thea and Tatum, especially since this is really Tatum's like first one-on-one match post, new direction for character after turning on Lyra. But I got my answer after this match because then I was like, okay, I'm not as mad about it before. But before we get into that announcement, gentlemen, how did we think about Tatum and Thea and all the shenanigans that happened afterwards?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't dislike the match itself, and I kind of figured this was going to be a show. Basically, I figured that we were going to see JC at some point. I figured all that. I was a little surprised that it was Jasmine at the beginning, but I see why it was her there because then JC comes in from behind. And I was like, okay, this is going to be, and at first I was like, Tatum's got nothing really to do with this match. It's all about Thea and them coming for her. And then, when Thea launched herself onto JC, I was like, yeah. And then it was going Brawl. And all of a sudden Lyra comes in and like starts whooping on Tatum. And I was just like, okay, now we have shifted into pure, just like chaotic energy right now. I was like, we're all over the dang place. I was just like, oh, okay. All right. I get, I mean, all right. I mean, could we have done without this? Yeah. I mean, we could have. I mean, it was just fun to watch girls fight, but I mean, it would have made, I don't know. It's like let's use the ring to create more drama. And I thought, I think I would have preferred to it just have been a match and without the shenanigans because I guess this is my issue with it. We've been building Thea up, and I felt that this was like a step back. Like, we're going to create this match for her to go up against Tatum, who is also sort of like has taken on her own sort of self, and is not like she's not attached to Lyra's hip anymore, and so she's becoming her own sort of entity. And I thought, oh, okay, this could be a really good match, actually, And then it was okay, it was not bad, and then all that happened, and I was like, man, this probably could have been a really good match if it was given its due, as opposed to the showmanship that occurred. I don't know. I both enjoyed it, and I was also kind of disappointed in it. I mean, I just enjoyed it because I got to watch girls fight, like I said, but I don't know. It was weird. It felt like it just felt weird. And then Lyra comes in, which just felt odd. I don't know. It was weird. I don't know. Maybe Andrew can put better words on it than I can, but I just can't.
I felt like it was a really good match that got overshadowed by the other stories. It was we want to continue telling both of these stories, so let's take the two people we can put against each other, so then the rest of the people in the stories can, like, basically pull them apart to focus back on their stories. I agree. I think it never felt like it was about that match, even the way that they were kind of handling the match itself. What good is Chase U at ringside? Like, why are they there?
Nah,
What are they
I
doing?
agree.
They didn't add anything to this
No.
match.
They didn't add anything to the match. There's literally 3 of you out there, and you have never helped Thea in a match avoid interference. You know, the other issue I had with this was I felt like it kind of made Thea look weak when she was wrestling Tatum, because we've seen her snap now and go kind of like, kind of, Tasmanian devil on her opponents, and she was like scared of Tatum. And I felt like there's a way that you could have done that. That could have like had them both look strong. But watching them wrestle was like watching 2 iterations of Liv Morgan wrestle each other.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think, Andrew, you put it the best way. I feel that this was a good match, just overshadowed by all the stories that we're telling. Which, speaking of which, the brawl between Lyra and Tatum leads into our next backstage segment with our NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne. Roxanne, I love you, girl, but we still need to work on those mic skills because the delivery was still not clicking for me. She sounds like, and I know she's not even 21 yet, she's still fairly young, but girl, we got to get some, classes on public speaking because these promo skills are not clicking. But that's my only issue I had with this. So basically, in this promo, Roxanne basically says that, cool, Lyra and Tatum can fight it out. And then the winner of that match can, face me for the NXT Women's Championship. And then she did the cardinal sin that most wrestlers do. She makes fun of the GM and says, she literally is like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I don't know what the hell Ava's talking about. It wasn't that hard. And she continues to talk her mess. And then Ava pops in. And Ava wins all the points for me this week because she does the cartoon. She literally goes womp womp. I was like, that was stupid, but I'm here for the stupidity. But literally, not even night 2, but next week, night 1, we're getting a triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship match. Roxanne will be defending the title against both Lyra Valkyria in a stand and deliver rematch, but we also have Tatum Paxley involved in this. So this triple threat is the 3 women that have been involved in the storyline for the last couple of months, and we're about to go to blows because I believe, even though I would like to see Tatum stay, not Tatum, Lyra stay, I think Lyra might be getting called up to the main roster because I feel like she has nothing left to prove. My only fear is the other name that I've been hearing for the women's division to get called up is Roxanne, which I think is a horrible idea. I would like Roxanne to stay a little bit longer in NXT before we move her up. I think in-ring wise, she's ready for the main roster, but we got to get her fixed with those promo skills because if she can't cut promos on the main roster, it's going to be bad and the audience is going to eat her alive.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I felt like her cadence was the same every time she delivered a line.
You perfectly described what my biggest issue was this thing. The cadence is just not clicking for me.
Yeah.
No, because she's trying to be a bad guy. And it's so funny how it feels forced. And it's like, girl, just be yourself. She's trying to act like the bad guy. It's like, don't act like the bad guy, be the bad guy. And I agree, and I think it's because it's like when you have like first time actors, they're playing the bad guy, and it's always like, I'm the bad guy, I'm coming for you. And it's like, oh no, honey, no, you need to put some tonality on that. It's like, and I was just like, yeah, and I'm just like, I felt like she was trying too hard. And I was like, oh, you're not used to being the bad guy.
Well, and I feel like the bad guy thing may be a bad choice because last week we saw it. The audience, the fans there were behind her.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they were like essentially mocking Lyra when she came out, saying you tapped
Mm-hmm.
out. I feel like part of this is they're trying to make her the bad guy. And it's like stop. Just let it be
Just let it be
like
natural.
the fans want to cheer for her, let her lean into that. Let her be someone who's going to do what she needs to do to get that title, but she doesn't have to be a bad guy for it.
No, I
Let her
agree.
be more comfortable.
Agreed. You know, the other thing you talk about Roxanne going up to main roster possibly, then there's no way that Tatum would get that title right now. There's no way. So if she was going to go up to main roster, I would assume that they would put somebody else there.
If I'm gonna be honest, if Roxanne and Lyra both end up going to main roster, at least the top of my head thinking, I honestly would let Blair hold the championship for a
Yeah,
little bit. That to
I would
me,
too.
if you need a heel, I think Blair really is your best pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as I like some of our other girlies that are heels like Kiana and JC, where they're involved in other storylines right now, and I think Blair is probably your best choice right now. Should Roxanne and Lyra both get called up to main roster?
And you know, I'd be here for Blair being that champion. I would that would make for me if you want to heal in that championship. That's who I would go with because she is like bad to the bone. We
I
all
still
know
I still
it.
think it's a crime that Blair never held that NXT UK Women's Championship. It was a crime.
That's why I'm like, maybe they'll give her this one because I just I don't know who else at this point. I'm just like, who else? Who else would? I mean, who else would be even close to it? I mean, honestly, I mean Blair for sure because Blair, you know, she's got all that experience under her belt, and she's been consistent with either with her wins or her losses. It's all been very consistent across the board. She's always brought it. She's always brought it 110%. She's never in a match, as far as any of the ones I've seen anyway. She's never held back. She's always sort of like kill or be killed. It's like, you know, and she's always up for a fight. So that's why I'm just like, and she'll come at you in the dark. And I love that. I'm like, give her the damn title. Let her hang on to it for a while and like let the good guys try to get it away from the bad guy. I'd be here for that. For
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, the draft starts next week, so we'll see who ends up going where. But Andrew, final thoughts on this, announcement and
I,
Roxanne.
I feel like if and maybe it's just because I'm reading too much into what was said last week, but I feel like if Roxanne's getting drafted, which I agree, I think she needs to have a run, especially with the way her last run ended. I think if she's getting drafted, it feels like what would happen is she would win and then be like, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to Raw or SmackDown or whatever because she said the only way that I'm losing this title is when I drop it to move up to the main roster. So I could see her dropping it, vacating the title, and then they have people compete to see who gets to be the new champion. I don't know that they'll do that now that, the stuff that happened with Rhea Ripley, if that was ever even the plan. But I feel like similar to Trick, I think Roxanne needs to stay down at NXT and also lead that division to help them build up some of the next new challengers.
Agreed. We move on from the announcement to our second squash match of the evening, where the Authors of Pain, AOP representing the Final Testament, squash Idris Enofe and Malik Blade with Brindley Reese at ringside. This was a quick one. This was 2.5 minutes, but this is a squash match that made kind of sense because AOP, which is weird, still being signed to WWE this whole entire time, but just only recently returning to television. And, this was to get AOP a win. And then we have a stare down with our NXT Tag Team Champions, which I'm pretty sure is probably going to be the match for night 2 of Spring Break in AOP versus Nathan and Axiom for those tag titles. I mean, there's not much to say. Squash match. Idris and Malik actually did pretty well, but AOP's size and strength is what undid our boys to allow AOP to pick up the victory.
Yep. It was a squash match. I mean, Idris and Malik sold the hell out of those things. It didn't give me a lot of hope for the champions going up against them because I was like, you just saw what they did to another high-flying fast tag team, and those guys are bigger than you are. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a bummer because I've really been enjoying what those two have been doing, but it wasn't a surprise when they went against AOP. And yeah, I mean, it made AOP look strong because they just tossed them around. I mean, the way, they were catching them and doing all kinds of stuff, it was crazy.
I don't know how I feel about this match. AOP is pretty impressive. I was like, okay, that's cool. I don't know who the hell you are. That's like, and you're coming up in here and you're winning against my guys. I'm just like, who are you? I mean, because they were entered. We met them last week, right? Wasn't it last week we met them? Officially met them. Was it last week or was it week before? I don't remember. I know they're previous NXT folks.
Yeah.
I know that. But I'm talking about
NXT last. Yeah, was it? Yeah, last week when we had our tag team championship match. Yeah, they got the Final Testament made their NXT debut last week. It's felt long. It seems longer than that, but it was really only last week. But yeah, so
it seems like an awfully quick rise through the ranks to me. I don't know, but that's just me because I love Idris and Malik. I love these guys, and I really want them to go far. And I really hope they don't like. I really hope they don't beat them down so they stop because they're not going anywhere. And I really hope that doesn't happen. And I could see it happening because they're like, oh, we brought in these guys who used to be NXT guys and we're going to let them win. And it's like, but you have so many other tag teams that are fighting to get where you literally just put these guys. And that kind of bugs me. And I'm not saying that these guys are bad or anything like that. I'm just saying people were here before you. I'm just like, did nobody watch Sesame Street when they were growing up? It's like, I mean, come in and be courteous and they were in line before you, so maybe we let them do some stuff and then we bring in, these guys and let them kick their asses then. But I don't know. It just made me, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about this match. I really didn't. So,
So, I mean, we're setting up the tag team championship match, so we'll go from here. Next, we get the second part of Ariana and Gigi's day out, where they're in this shop, for Ariana to have Gigi try on some dresses. She gives her this very, pageantry green dress, and Gigi still finds a way to inject herself into it, so she takes the time in the dressing room, and we can hear her cutting up some things with some scissors. And when she pops out, she literally looked like Gigi's dress that she was wearing when she came out of the dressing room. Looked like she just walked out of Beetlejuice.
That was a full-on prom dress.
That was so good.
And then thank you. And then Gigi. I mean, I like the fact that Gigi turned it into something that she would wear, and yet it was still kind of stylish and cool. I actually kind of liked it afterwards. I mean, I like the dress way better after than when they pulled it off the rack. I was like, no. And then when she came out with it, I was like, there you go. And she let it look good. So I was like, hey, whatever.
What I also appreciated too, as much as to Ariana Grace's chagrin, she was like, I'm not going to tell her no. All right. Do you guys take credit? And she pulls out 7 credit cards.
7 credit cards. It's like, do you take credit? which I have to say is a stupid thing to ask. Of course, they take credit. It's like,
This
Yeah,
is cute.
these promos, it'll be interesting to see where they go. They definitely have a certain quality to them. I didn't feel like they were breaking any ground, but they're fun enough. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go.
I love it. So next, we get a match that I guess for me personally, I feel like it didn't need to happen, but it did. We got Ivar versus Josh Briggs. So Ivar had a quick wardrobe change because he went from, his cosplay of Sons of Anarchy to the full-on Viking Raider experience because he comes out in his Viking Raiders gear. And then we go to commercial, and then we come back with Josh Briggs making his entrance. And this was just a beefy big boy on big boy match in which, Ivar wins, which we're like, duh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a good way to continue making Ivar look like a threat to Oba. And Ivar's crazy. Like, I mean, what he does for a guy his size and his build is insane. And I guess it's cool to get to see him actually wrestle. But yeah, I don't know that we needed this since we're going to get the match in like 2 weeks, but sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, I had to like mute myself because I was talking to Michael, and I was like, and then I came back and went, "Are we talking about the uselessness of this match?" Because I was like, surely someone's going to say this was a useless match, and it was. Oh my god! I don't understand. I didn't understand. I don't know. I got confused, I think, somewhere in the middle of this episode because I wasn't really sure what was going on. And then because we had that whole Briggs and Ivar thing in the infirmary. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to fight you tonight or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, dude, you have like 2 cracked ribs. I mean, you shouldn't be able to fight right now. And then they did the fight, and I was just sort of like, is this really necessary? I mean, and I don't understand. Again, and again, I'm seeing like what are they doing with Briggs? What are they doing with him now? Because he was like he was building up, and they were building him up to something, and now he's just sort of stalled. And I'm just like, and see, this is the thing that irritates me about NXT is they build up these folks and they get them to this point, and we're thinking, yeah, something's big's about to happen, and then they bring in other people, and then they focus on them, and I'm just like Ivar, just hi, we're here, and I'm gonna take away from you now because I'm gonna attack Obafemi in the ring. And now it's going to be about me, who came from main roster to you, because you know me and my issue with this. Even though I do like Ivar, he's pretty cool. But my biggest issue is bringing in these main roster people and taking away from the NXT people. And it's like, it irritates me so much. You know, I mean, he comes in and he takes this away from Briggs, who is an NXTer. And so now we have a main roster going up against Obafemi. And I'm like, that shouldn't be a main roster going up against him. It should be someone here at NXT. Now, I don't know if something's going to happen between now and then, and suddenly Ivar can't fight him, so they have to find somebody else. I don't know what's going to happen. But, I mean, and again, I think this is because they painted themselves in a damn corner with Obafemi. So they're like, oh, we got to bring in like main roster people to fight him because we were stupid. And that's exactly what it feels like. And I'm just like, and yeah, then it's what happens at the end of this, in the hallway, but which we'll talk about in a minute. But
yeah,
that's Mikey's theories.
So let's just jump into it. So Ivar picks up the victory, and then we immediately cut backstage with Obafemi being interviewed. he's asked about his thoughts about, Ivar winning and Ivar earning that right. And Oba just gives us one word, interesting. And then he walks off camera. And then we hear some commotion and we see that off screen, Oba Femi bullied Oro Mensa to the floor again. And Oro Mensa is kind of getting tired of it. And this is where my conspiracy theory runs deep. I think Obafemi's holding on to this title for a little bit, and I think the person that we could potentially be building up to overthrow Oba is going to be Oro Mensa. I think at some point we're going to see Noam Dar try to go after Oba and be, unsuccessful in that attempt. And so to avenge his metaphor brother, Oro Mensa is going to step up to the plate, and I think Oro Mensa, if it's not going to be Wesley, is going to be the one that is going to dethrone Oba Femi. But be strapped in, kids. I think Oba's holding this title for a little bit, which is unfortunate because we literally had him run through majority of the pure top men's talent right now.
All of them.
I mean, if they're not going to draft Oba up to one of the other shows, maybe this is the way they handle it, like ROH has been handling Athena. Bring people in like Ivar and stuff like that. People there, he's just like, whoever, bring them out. I don't care. I'll just destroy them all. Because I think
him
he's
versus
going to
Bronson
win.
Reed. Let's go.
And he's going to win. And I think the way that they've set this up is just going to make him look even more dominant, which is ultimately going to set him up for moving to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah. But that has been my conspiracy theories. We're going to move on because we get our bumpers for night 1 of Spring Break-In. So literally next week, we get NXT Underground contract signing. So we're going to find out who Lola has in her corner. We get the 6-man tag between No Quarter Catch Crew and the family. We get our triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship between Lyra, Roxanne, and Tatum. We get the no DQ match between Sol Ruka and Blair Davenport. And what I'm probably going to assume is our main event for night 1 of Spring Break-In. For the NXT Championship, Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams. Spoiler alert, Trick Williams, I feel like, needs to win this match because if he loses in some capacity, I'm going to look at NXT with lots of questions because I'm like, what happened? But anyways, which then leads us into our main event. It is a steel cage match between Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. And you could tell this was cut for time because we were rushing through this thing like we had to get out of here to go catch a date because this is like a 12-minute match and they like ran through this like it was a speed run in a video game. And I was just like, I wish this is the match that we gotten at Stand and Deliver because this is the finality. But again, conspiracy theory hat comes on. I think that Shawn Michaels wanted to do a trilogy between these three and that's, the basic formula when it comes to wrestling. We want to have trilogy matches where, both go one-on-one and then the person you want to give that push to wins the feud. So I'm thinking that this was supposed to be a trilogy with Trick and Mello tied at 1, and then the third match, Trick would be the winner and then get that momentum. But because with the draft looming into like with a week away, Shawn Michaels realizes like, okay, we kind of got to speed run this. So this was the final chapter in this saga for now. And I was entertained with this match, but it didn't help that we had to rush through this because they were just flying everywhere. They're like, okay, let's go here, let's go there, let's go there. Security guards entering the ring was kind of weird. I was like, but that's not how steel cage matches work. But, and again, WWE plays hard and fast with the rules of wrestling, but I'm like, but that's not how a steel cage match works. Am I happy that Trick won? Yes. But I feel like this is what should have been at Stand and Deliver. I'm going to be completely honest. Stand and Deliver should have been the final chapter.
Especially because Stand and Deliver was the main event. Mm-hmm. You could have easily had it been a steel cage match. You could have had these antics come in when you gave it the time to develop the match properly. Having the security guards and things like that happen could have been fine. Because it also made sense because up to that point, he had security guards with him. So that all would have made sense. You would have given it the time to it properly needed. And at best, this match just felt redundant. And at worst, it made the first match look worse. Like it just was, and the problem was it was a solid match. They did some good stuff, good fun things in there, but it was just kind of, yeah, it felt like they had the first match and they're like, oh, it would have been really good. Oh, well, let's just do that on TV. It was kind of a bummer because it could have gone out on a really high note between these two, and now it kind of goes out on a fizzle.
The words of our general manager, Ava. Womp womp.
Yeah. Having been here from the beginning of this rivalry, whatever the hell it was, because I don't even know what it was anymore. I'm kind of played out on this Trick Carmelo thing now. I love me some Trick, and I'm super happy, but I don't think we needed this match. Now, this would have been, I think this match would, like I said, would have been better at Stand and Deliver than what we got. But I'm just, I was watching it. It was okay, but it was just literally, it was like a repeat. It was redundant. I mean, it was absolutely just like, hey, we just saw this match, except it's in a cage. I was just like, yeah. I was like, okay, is it actually done now, or are we next week? Are we gonna suddenly Carmella Hayes is like, hey, I'm not done with you yet? And I'm like, oh,
No,
God.
I'm hoping that this is the final thing because it would really sour the main event for next week if Carmelo reared his ugly head into that match between Ilya and Trick.
Hey, NXT's done some stupider shit in the past, so.
Yeah, but we also have to now contention with what Triple H is going to do because he's going to be picking up some of the NXT kids to go to main roster soon.
Oh, true.
And then on top of that, too, what I'm hoping to see is main roster stars cross over to NXT. I think that aren't necessarily, not to say that they're not doing anything on main roster, but I feel like would elevate the both men's and women's division with having main roster folks work with them. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of want to see Zoe and Shayna in NXT. And look, oh my gosh, what if Shayna is in Lola's corner? That's what I just popped myself. I'm sorry. I'm like, because it makes sense because Lola and Shayna technically have that similar MMA background, with Shayna Baszler being an actual MMA fighter coming into WWE, and her and Zoe aren't doing anything on Raw right now, so I'd be down for Shayna to come to NXT for a little bit and whoop everybody's ass up and down the ring. God, that girl it would be crazy. But besides the point, the draft is happening next week. We're going to see who gets called up from NXT. And what I'm hoping to see is some people get called over to NXT, not down to NXT, because I feel that at this point, NXT is also a third brand and it's on and popping like main roster. Sometimes better. As if it wasn't evident enough, I thought Stand and Deliver was the best pay-per-view of the 4 that we watched the whole WrestleMania weekend. But Trick wins the match. He celebrates. He gets on top of the cage. And then we end the show with him and Ilya, who is in the bird, perch area of the arena, staring at each other as NXT goes off the air this week. So, boys, let's give our final empanada ratings for this week's NXT. I will go first. I'm going to give this a solid 7 out of 10 for me. I thought this was definitely an improvement from last week. There was still a lot of things that I found perplexing. This was the night of interferences and distractions galore in a lot of the matches. We also had in-ring promos and segments that could have been cut out and overstayed their welcome a little bit, which I feel like would have gave more points to it. But as far as the matches go, outside of maybe like one particular match, I thought the rest of the match-wise, the rest of the night was very solid. Noam Dar and Dijak was a banger. I really enjoyed Lola and Soul for what we got. Javon Evans and Ilya, definitely my match of the night. Overall, I give this a solid 7 out of 10 empanadas for this week's NXT.
I gave it 6. And that's because it was gooey in the middle and it confused me. and I don't think it was actually a very good Jahong episode or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but I thought it started out strong and then it just bottomed out in the middle, and then Ilya and Javon happened and it went back up, and I was like, oh, okay, well maybe from here on it'll be up, and then it wasn't. And then the main event was meh at best. But what really, really knocked it down for me was the family and no quarter catch crew. I was like, because that's 15 minutes of my life I'll never get back. And I'm a little bitter about it. A little bitter. So yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10.
I gave it an 8.
I think 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, there was some really, really, really great matches in there, and I actually felt more excited for Spring Break-In after this than I was before. I was already kind of excited for it because I felt like they were going to do some fun stuff, especially knowing that we're kind of building to the first week's basically a build to the draft. There's potential that the second week could be fallout from the draft. So there could be some interesting stuff, but getting to see, find out about matches like Soul versus Blair, even the Natalia versus Lola match. I wasn't overly thrilled about the triple threat match for the NXT women's title, but I think it has the potential to be a really fun match. So yeah, I think if you're considering it a go home show, I think it got me excited for what we're gonna see. Hopefully they deliver. But overall, I was actually really, really enjoyed this week. Yeah, there were some rough spots for sure. And I think we could have done without them, and maybe it was just coming off of last week feeling generous. But yeah, I enjoyed this week.
Maybe I'm just dead inside.
Oh no.
I don't know. This episode did not get me excited for it at all.
Hey, and you know what? That's totally okay, because let's be honest.
Of course, I missed last week's episode. I didn't get a chance to. I mean, I watched it, but I mean, I didn't. Neither of them got me excited for this spring break. I don't. I mean, I can't say that completely. I mean, because there are some things that I'm excited about, but not like I normally am when we're going into something like this. I'm just like,
I think what doesn't help either is the fact that because the draft is looming and we are coming up to it on Friday,
or something.
There's a lot of uncertainty both in NXT and on Raw and SmackDown of who's going to end up where. So we're just, again, I say this all the time, we're just going to have to wait and see what the next 2 weeks bring for all three brands. But don't you worry, because all of us here at BC WrestlePod will be covering the draft and everything that happens in the next 2 weeks here on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the DDT review. Next week, we'll be reviewing night 1 of Spring Break-In. So where hopefully it delivers some really fun stuff that we're going to talk about. But if you enjoyed this review, you can check out all the other stuff we got here on the YouTube channel. Follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. If you can't watch our beautiful faces, you can listen to us as we have audio podcast versions of every review. So that is, a cool thing, which is fantastic. So you can take us with you on the go. And then, of course, if you want to catch some of us live and in person, the East Coast Collective of JVL, Jesse, and Adolfo, as well as myself, will be in attendance at New Jersey Wrestle Show Saturday, May 18th and Sunday, May 19th. We are going to be there. We're going to have a table. Come say hi, buy some merch, listen to a quick snippet of our episode, and just overall, come chat with us. We would love to talk wrestling with all you folks in person. The three of us are going to get up on out of here, but from us here at DDT and all the rest of the boys at BC WrestlePod, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay biconic, but more importantly, you deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you next week for night 1 of Spring Break-In, but until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.